Hey, so I want to run you through today how you can set up and launch cold outbound campaigns so you can book 20 to 40 meetings every single month. So where do we start? Well, we always start with onboarding, and I'm not going to spend too much time here, but this is, inviting your clients to Slack and giving them a nice warm welcome message and booking the initial workshop. So the first workshop that we do is a foundations workshop. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two, because we need to cover both ICP and offer. So on the ICP side, what do we want to find? Well, we want to have a look on the account level at things like firmographics, industry, employees, ARR, funding, locations. But we also want to learn about technographics. So what technologies do they use and what are they looking to invest in? And then on the person level, there's going to be typically three people. There's going to be the user of the tool or the software. There's going to be the decision maker, and there's going to be the budget approver. And in small companies, they can be one person, right? But in large companies, there can be three people. Sometimes they have multiple users. You could have 10 people, for example. But typically, you're probably going to have one or two for small companies and 3 and 4 for some large companies. And then we're going to define for each persona demographics, so job title, years of experience, education, and then psychographics, which is the really important part, which is pain points, goals, fears, values, interests, motivations. And these people are all part of the same company, the user, the decision maker, but they will have different pain points. They'll have different goals, fears. So it's really about kind of defining all of this stuff. And once we've done that, we will have a look at building the offer, and that will look something like this. So the reason we define target audience again is this offer could apply to the ICP as a whole, or it could be a segment of the ICP. So it's just good to clarify that. And then we're going to start with the problem, because that's where everything starts. You don't say I'm a video editor, no, because that's a solution. You say, I help coaches, I help consultants save 10 hours a week by editing their videos, something like that. But you're really leaning on the problem, which is time. So you want to define the problem, and it's also good to look at the root causes of the problem, just so you can paint a picture of the problem hierarchy and then the cost of inaction and consequences of not fixing. And then you want to define your dream outcome. What is this person hoping to achieve? What are the buying triggers? So it might be one we did recently with a company was when free to paid conversions gets low. So low free to paid, low ARR growth, and then signals. What signals? They could be industry signals, they could be person level signals, are given off that indicate that someone is willing to buy. So for a sales tech software, they might want to target companies that are growing a sales team because they've got money to invest in sales. And so hiring for an SDR could be a signal, but there could also be person level signals as well, like website visitors and things like that. So define your signals here. And then what's the solution to the problem? What are you actually offering? What are the benefits and what's the pricing? And you might just have the one offer. You might be a bigger company and you might have multiple offers. So again, you can define offer 2 and offer 3 here. And once we've defined foundations, I like to go through a positioning and messaging workshop. Not because it's necessarily that important for outbound, because hopefully they're at a stage where they've already got their positioning and messaging already set up, right? Like the ICP and the offer stage, they should already have. It's us just gathering the intel so that we can write appropriate copy. But I think the positioning and messaging workshop is good to just clarify a few things, and I'll show you a quick template of what I mean. So like defining things like the onlyness statement, us versus them, who's the hero of the story, who's the villain, ladder of benefits, so features, functional benefits, emotional benefits, business benefits, jobs to be done, messaging house, elevator pitch, one-liner, offer messaging. And by building all of this out, this is going to just be really useful to feed into the actual copywriting and messaging in the cold emails, right? That we do later. So it's just a good exercise to go through, and it also provides clarity and alignment between obviously the agency and the client. So it's a good useful exercise to go through. And so the next stage we do is, obviously you can see it split off it because we offer warm outbound and cold outbound. And obviously cold is in blue, warm is in red, but we're going to look at the next step in cold. So TAM mapping. And so what is TAM mapping? We want to not guess what the TAM is. We'll do some calculations on a bit of paper and work out that the TAM is this. No, because what's the reality of the situation? We can work out the TAM has 100k accounts, but when we start pulling all the leads from different lists together, we get a different story. And so they're not lining up with each other. So really TAM mapping is, let's use those ICP filters that we defined. Let's go to various sources like Apollo, LinkedIn, Ocean.io, data scraping tools. Let's bring all that together. Let's merge and dedupe in Clay using the company domain as a unique identifier. We can use Clayagent then, and a really nice tip with Clayagent is you're going to have a big list, right, because there's a TAM list. So if you use a HTTP API and connect to your own OpenAI account or similar, then it won't cost any credits to use Clayagent, right? So you're not going to burn through all your credits. So that's a nice thing to do. But yeah, you want to use Clayagent to enrich and filter out non-ICP companies. For us, we target SaaS companies. So we might say, look, I want you to visit the website and I want you to filter out anyone who's non-SaaS. I also might want to target PLG SaaS. So I might say, look, I want you to see if check if it's PLG or SLG, and if it's SLG, filter those out as well. So anyway, so you want to define your TAM accounts in Clay, and obviously using all these data sources. And you might come out with something like 5,000 accounts. Now, that's useful, okay? But when we actually reach out, we're going to be reaching out to people. So we want to take all of the accounts here and we want to add them to Apollo, because Apollo's got a neat little thing where you can add the companies as a list and it'll give you all of the people in certain positions. And then that might come out as, say, something like 16,000 people. And remember, in small companies, you might just have 1 or 2 people per account, whereas for bigger companies, you might have 3, 4. In enterprises, you might have 10. So just do some rough mental maths in your head to make sure that these two are lining up. They should be. And if they aren't, figure out why. But effectively, yeah, we've got this TAM master accounts, there's this TAM master people list, and that is where all of our execution lists are going to derive from. Okay, so we've got our TAM people list. What next? So we want to now work out the number of domains and inboxes we need to set up and purchase. So how do we do that? The first thing we want to have a look at and define is a TAM coverage cycle. Now, that is how fast do we want to reach out to everyone in the TAM? And then obviously when we finish that, we're going to reach out to people. Because if you do things in the right, proper way, that's non-spammy, non-salesy, then you can reach out to people every quarter. That's not a problem at all. It only becomes a problem when you actually start using poor practice. So we're going to reach out to people. That's absolutely fine. So typically 3 months, right? Every quarter. Okay. And you can then work out your monthly prospects by TAM people divided by TAM coverage cycle. So if we have 12,500 people in our TAM people list, we divide by 3, we get 4,200 prospects per month. Okay. So that's how many people, but how many emails? Okay, well, if your TAM is between 5k and 20k, you should use a 4 email sequence. If your TAM is between 20k and 70k, you should use a 3 email sequence. And if your TAM is greater than 70k, you should use a 2 email sequence, okay? So let's say that our TAM is between 5k and 20k. Well, it is, look, 12,500 as an example. So we're going to use a 4 email sequence. So we've got 4,200 multiplied by 4. Is 16,800 emails per month. Okay, we know how many emails we're going to send per month. Great. How many domains and inboxes? Well, good practice is 2 inboxes per secondary domain, a maximum of 25 emails per inbox per day, which is equivalent to 50 emails per domain per day. We've got a maximum of 20 sending days per month. We're not going to be sending on weekends. And finally, the number of domains that we come out with, we actually want to double that number because we want to have some backups so we can switch them out so that, our health rating and score isn't getting too low on the active inboxes. We're able to switch them out so they can start warming up and getting back to full health again. So, okay, so we've got 16,800 emails per month, and using this maths, we've got this lookup table, 17,000 emails per month, which is 17 domains, okay, without backups, and 34 with backups, okay, and then if we're doing 2 inboxes per domain, we've got 68 inboxes total. So this is a bit of an extreme example. There's a lot of emails in this one, 17,000 per month. So we've worked out our domains, we've worked out our inboxes. the next step is to start setting up the tech. So if we head over to here, the client might usually want to have their own Calendly or their own booking scheduling tool, and they provide us the links. They'll obviously have their own domain and website, their primary domain, and they may have a CRM already set up, which is most likely. That being said, we don't count on it and we're prepared. So on the agency side, look, we're going to come prepared with a CRM, Attio, Breakcold, really good ones. Secondary domains we'll buy in Pork Bun. Inboxes, we want to buy some inboxes from Google, some from Outlook, and some from SMTP, because we really want to mix and match. So for Google, Premium Inboxes is a great shout. For Outlook, Zapmail is a great shout. And for SMTP, Scaled Mail. And then for the email outreach, SmartLead is the go-to. It's the best for deliverability out there. Instantly is a good alternative. LinkedIn outreach, HeyReach, Lemlist. List building we've already talked about, but Apollo, Ocean and Clay for building the master TAM lists. Scraping, Apify, Export Apollo, and automation, Zapier you will have heard of and Make. So once we've got all of the tools and purchased, we then actually want to set up our infrastructure and deliverability. And we're going to go through this checklist. So look, set up your secondary domains, use .com domains. You want to age domains for a month, so you actually want to warm them up for 30 days before starting. Configure your inboxes, diversify your sending structure, so having a mix, we talked about this. Ensuring proper email authentication and DNS, so SPF records, DKIM, DMARC, URL redirects. Warming up inboxes and the warm-up settings. What your sending volume should be like. ESP matching, so Outlook to Outlook, Google to Google. You know, when you're purchasing domains, you want to make sure that you're not buying one that's blacklisted, and you also want to add an unsubscribe option. Okay, so moving on to the next steps then. So we've set up all of the tech, we're warming up all of our emails, which is happening in the background, and we really want to wait 3 or 4 weeks before we actually start sending and launching our campaigns. But the next step in the meantime while they're warming is list building. Okay, so we'll head over here. So obviously we've mapped the TAM in these master lists, but we're not just going to load that list straight into SmartLead. We want to break this list down into execution lists. And a really good way to do that is to break into three lists. Okay, and you might want to divide that by number of employees, you might want to divide that by geography, and you can by all means split it out into more lists if you want. This is just an example. So list 1, for example, we could choose 11 to 20 employees, list 2, 21 to 50, and list 3, 51 to 100. And then we can reach out to list 1 in month 1, list 2 in month 2, and list 3 in month 3, which gets us through our TAM. Okay, and then we can track that in a TAM tracker template again. So I have taken this resource from the guys at Stack Optimize. This is part of their course and it's really good. So I would definitely check out their course. So yeah, you basically add your TAM and then you can define your list here and just keep track of them to make sure list 2 isn't overlapping with list 1. And obviously, yeah, building them up as you go. And once we've got those execution lists, we can really start to look at actually building out some of our copy. And we're going to be doing this in a Word document in Notion. And again, so we really want to be writing in plain text. So no links, no attachments, no HTML. We don't want to be using words like free, urgent, or guaranteed. Spintax is really good because you can basically rotate through different phrases. So in one email, it will say, hope you're doing well. In the next one, it will say, hope all is good. And in the one after that, hope this finds you well. Obviously, you can be more creative and use variables as well. But yeah, Spintax is really good just so every email isn't the same. Obviously, it won't be the same because we're going to be talking about how we can use variables and enrichments later, but there's just an example of how Spintax is useful. You want to encourage engagement. You know, high friction would be trying to get someone to jump on a call straight away, but asking someone a simple question, you know, really low friction. And you can even ask if they found a resource useful that you sent to them. You know, you don't have to jump straight to booking a call. And sometimes actually the lower friction steps are the best way to go. And then test and adjust regularly. So coming up with, you know, multiple variants per campaign that you can test, A/B testing, different openings, different CTAs, different subject lines. A really good rule of thumb is you want 3 campaigns and you want 3 message variants per campaign. Okay, so we're going to write all of our copy in a doc. And once we've done that, we want to proceed to enrichment. And that's when we're going to come back to our lists. Now we're going to use Clay for this. The data source we use should have an enrichment function in there where we can get emails and verify emails and that sort of thing. But if we don't, we can enrich and verify in Clay. And we want to double verify as well. So you can use zero bounce for initial verification, and you can verify catch-all emails using bounce ban. You really want to keep bounce rates to a minimum, okay? It will harm sender reputation if it's above 2%, so it's really good to just double verify. So once you've done that, then you can start enriching with ICP data, signal data, and you'll know what to enrich because you've already written the copy, and you'll know what variables you want to plug into different emails. And so that's when you can get really focused, because there's a million different options and rabbit holes you can go down, but you've already defined the copy. And so, you can get really focused here. So we've added our emails, we've enriched with the data. We can then actually use AI in Clay to write the openings, the subject lines, the social proof lines, the CTA lines. You can have a look at it, make sure it's all okay. And then we are ready to launch campaigns. And like I say, emails will be warming for a period of 3 to 4 weeks. So, by the end of month 1, you'll be ready to launch campaigns. And then after that, it is a case of campaign management. So handling replies, looking at metrics, things like reply rates, positive reply rates, bounce rates, A/B testing the winners, continuously improving. If you can automate anything, do that. Because it will save you time, and just continuously iterating. So that is how you set up your infrastructure and set up your cold outbound campaigns so you can get going. And if you iterate here, then you will eventually start booking 20, 30, 40 meetings a month, every single month. And as long as you keep A/B testing the messaging, because messaging does fatigue, then you will keep that. So you're fully in control of your pipeline, something that content just doesn't give you. Okay, one post might give you, lots of leads. The next post might give you 0. Whereas when you start nailing cold outbound, you make pipeline predictable, and that's why it's so good. So I hope you found this useful today. Any questions, please add to the comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.